Hi, I'm Dr. David Sterling Brown, and I'm the author of Shakespeare's White Others. I'm also a tenured associate professor of English at Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And I'm excited to talk about Shakespeare's White Others because I wrote this book from a place of wanting people to understand the various ways that we can think about Shakespeare and race in any of his plays. I wrote this book for anyone who is interested in thinking about race or learning more about race. I also wrote this book as a way to prescribe an anti-racist program of action for people who are either artists performing Shakespeare's plays on the stage, or perhaps theater makers, theater goers, really anyone who understands that in order for our society to be better, we need to understand how race operates, we need to understand how whiteness operates, and we need to understand how anti-Blackness permeates pretty much every facet of life. I began writing Shakespeare's White Others from a very personal place. The book ends with a letter that I wrote when I was 18 years old after I was being racially profiled by police in my own neighborhood. I decided to write a letter to my mayor, the police chief, and the police commissioner at that time because I wanted to hopefully help save my own life, but also advocate for people in my community who look just like me and likely might have faced similar encounters, but not necessarily had the tools in order to handle those situations in the way that I did. And so the letter really provided a foundation for the book, and Shakespeare was my way of getting to there, getting to that place of having to look through his plays and think about how does white supremacy and anti-Blackness, how do they operate and how do they work? How do they affect my life? How do they affect yours? And so with those questions in mind, I worked my way through several of his plays in order to find that endpoint, which was actually for me a starting point and a place where, as I talk about in the book, mental health and social psychology, thinking about healing and trauma wounds and all of that stuff. It was a very cathartic process writing this book, certainly a challenging one, but one that I ultimately am happy I'm able to share with the world now. And I thank you all for the opportunity to be in your spaces and places as you read and enjoy Shakespeare's White Others. The questions that I pose in this book are questions that I want people to think deeply about. What is required for you to see racial difference? When do you notice it? Beyond that, when do you become aware of pervasive global anti-Blackness, and what is required for you to notice it and its centuries-old effects? I wonder about that a lot. Is it a little Black girl's beautiful dark skin and Afro puffs that signal race for you? Or must it be a Black man with a knee pressed into his neck for nearly 10 minutes as he cries out for his mother with his last breaths? Is all or any of that necessary for you to notice race, racism, and anti-Blackness? I wonder about that. In the absence of Blackness or racial otherness, people racialized as white often do not or not have to see and reflect on race, their own racial makeup, or the racial makeup of the white people around them in any given moment. And yet, I believe their race matters, their whiteness matters, even in the absence of Blackness or racial otherness. How it matters and why it matters, especially in relationship to global anti-Blackness, are two of the many motivating forces and questions that drive the focus of Shakespeare's White Others, which begins with an introduction that offers a set of provocative questions serving as guiding inquiries for readers of all races and backgrounds, readers who are interested in subsubjects as racial profiling, history, racial construction, sociology, social psychology, critical whiteness studies, anti-Blackness, white supremacy, dramatic literature, Black feminism, mental health, performance studies, sound studies, trauma studies, and more. It builds on the work of many Shakespeare scholars, as well as critical race studies scholars, critical whiteness studies scholars, and so many others. I'm indebted to the folks that I cite in the book. I'm indebted to everyone who is listed in the bibliography for the work that you've done that has pushed my thinking, and hopefully will help push the thinking of those in the world who get to put their hands on this book, read it, internalize its messages, and hopefully do something with those messages and take them out into the world. This book is applicable to all Shakespearean plays. I discuss or touch on about 15 plays in the book, with chapters on Titus Andronicus, Antony Cleopatra, Hamlet, The Comedy of Errors. Ultimately, this book is an anti-racist program of action for people within and outside of Shakespeare studies, for people within and outside of the theater world. And I hope that folks will take this book, again, internalize its messages, share the messages, engage people about the book, and use it as a way to hopefully help make our world